Hello?
Wait, no. Ow.
You okay there?
I hit my face.
Oh no.
I got that on camera, so I guess I'm gonna have to put that as a blooper. Hello?
Ready?
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, well, hello. This is gonna be our second episode. We're trying to do this every week now, and we're gonna try to shoot for that. And some quick housekeeping. I just got a timer, so we're gonna be on topic.
Part two.
Part 2. And stay within the same anime for 30 minutes. So this is calibrated for 30 minutes.
Okay.
And then another thing is the format of how these seasons are going to be. Each season is going to be 2 anime seasons. So, of course, like we said before, this is our Violet Evergarden season and My Hero Academia. Next season, I made a decision, we're going to do like a 4-week break, so like a month, and then we go back into the anime podcast. And we're going to continue with My Hero Academia next season, but we're going to try to pick up another series, since Violet Evergarden is only 1 season so far. So, we're bouncing around some ideas. You said an anime just now, right?
Happy Sugar Life.
Happy Sugar Life, and it's a psychological horror, so that's going to be great. But if you have any suggestions, just put it in the comments. But also, let's make things clear, and we're trying to make sure that I get to watch these on a legitimate platform like Netflix or Crunchyroll or something like that. Like I feel like I would have a better conscience going through those avenues. So whatever your recommendation is, make sure it's either on Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, Crunchyroll, any of those streaming services, or I don't have a PO box, but I was gonna say send DVDs, but I was like, no. But yeah, so if you have a recommendation, just be aware of that, and then so we're probably gonna start with Violet Evergarden right now.
Okay.
So wait, do you have any questions? Because you're also part of this. No?
Do I have it? No.
Okay.
As it currently stands, I don't really have too many questions about
Okay.
it. The more interesting thing will be what kind of animes you might actually end up getting into, because I don't exactly know what genre of anime you're into yet.
Did we ever mention the type of anime I used to watch when I was a kid?
You did mention that you used to watch Brotherhood, and then
On the podcast, though.
I don't think you mentioned it briefly because you said you watched Bebop
I did. I think I probably made a list.
and Brotherhood.
I guess I gotta go back and watch that now.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. But where was I going with this?
Violet Evergarden.
Yeah, so we're going to Violet Evergarden. So I'm gonna turn this right now, and so we're gonna stay on topic. So now, I've watched 2 episodes right now. So far. The 3rd episode is that Violet Evergarden goes to a school to learn how to be a better auto memory doll. So she's okay. Oh, also preference real quickly. I've watched these more recently, and I think I'm giving you a refresher, right? Have you seen some of these again?
Yes, I've seen. Okay, so to give like a brief summary, I've seen all of the anime for both My Hero up until the newest season and Violet Evergarden up until the new special that just came out on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
This
is a special for
yeah,
Violet
there
Evergarden?
is. It just came out, so you'll be excited for that one.
Okay.
The only problem is with almost every single person that watches anime, it's like once you watch everything and you're kind of like thinking back to it, everything is just kind of like a jumble. Like you know what happens, you just don't know which part where the episode ends.
So as far as you, the audience knows, I'm kind of relaying what I've seen in the episode,
and I'm trying not to spoil it.
and you're trying to remember to the best of your ability at the same time, not trying to spoil things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the 3rd episode is named on Netflix is May You Be an Exemplary Auto Memory Doll, and so in this episode, Violet is going to school and meets Lucilia and her brother Spencer.
Right.
And to some degree. And we kind of dive a little bit deeper, like, behind the world and, like, how a lot of these characters are kind of adjusting to life post like pretty traumatic war situations,
Right.
and yeah, this episode had a lot of feels.
It's a very heavy episode.
It's a very heavy episode, and I kind of like the balance that we're kind of striking up with this season of anime, where we kind of get like stuff that's like very like high action, high kind of like emotions in a sense of like, oh yeah, he's gonna make it, while Violet Evergarden's like basically like, hey, we're gonna go dive into some really deep shit here. Get ready for it.
It's very somber.
It's very so Lucilia.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably butchering that name, even though I'm watching this. By the way, I'm watching this in dubbed.
What did you think about their character progression, like Lucilia and her brother Spencer? Was it Spencer?
Yeah, his name's Spencer.
What did you think about their story?
I think it was great, and I kind of like how these episodes are kind of like enclosed, so each character kind of like gets their own story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if she is or Spencer is coming back, but I kind of like how they wrapped up that kind of story of how he's kind of dealing with the trauma of losing parents to this war, and then kind of like blaming himself for it, while Lucilia is just wants to be happy that she has some former family still around, and from what I could tell, like their living conditions are not the greatest,
Yeah.
and stuff like that, and like she can't necessarily express her feelings about that situation. So I really enjoyed this episode just for like kind of like that emotion thing. I didn't like that I was watching it out in the living room, and then people were like walking back and forth, and it's just kind of like.
That's a personal problem.
It is a little bit of a personal. It is a little bit of a personal problem, and it was just kind of like there's this high thing moment, and as like my brother walks through, it's just like keep it in,
cries, tears,
keep it in. But so we learned that Violet is really good behind a typewriter, gets high marks in that, but we beating the dead horse, she is very. Like, what you see, what she's gonna get when it comes to writing these letters. You know what I mean? So like, they're basically saying that like, hey, you can type all this stuff, but she doesn't have like those emotions going on.
I think it shows her mechanical skills. Like, the one thing I feel like is a big important part of her character as of right now is the fact that like a lot of the things related to her is functionality centric. So when it comes to writing the letters, right? Functionality-wise, she has, like, the ability to type really fast. In the past episodes, you see her, like, working late at night, because who delivers mail at, like, 8 o'clock at night?
Yeah, she's also very, like, regimented. Like, she grew up in that system.
Right.
So, like, what she knows, she's just trying to graft on to this kind of, like, post-war kind of, like, hey, get a real, like, not a real job, but, like, work in, like, the world that's not war.
I don't think she knows what a break is, because war is so like
moment to moment almost, yeah,
and life encompassing,
right?
Because in the moment I think war happens, your life no longer revolves around like what do you do on the daily. It revolves around contributing more so.
Right.
I mean, part of it is also like your self-preservation, but still I think when war happens, your mindset changes a lot.
Yeah, and she was in this since she was a child.
Right.
So like even before we meet her, she's probably been through some shit.
Yep.
Especially like being cooped up in a box.
Yeah.
Possibly like I think I remember the brother was like, oh yeah, I found her in the rubble of like whatever town, and like this will be your tool. Don't get attached to it, Which I'm still kind of like this is kind of like weird. This brother did that, so.
And I have a question. So,
yeah.
In this episode in particular, Violet goes through kind of like a character progression, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because where does it end off? It ends off with her being able to write the letter for her, right?
Yeah. So she from the episode. You get some ups and downs. Violet doesn't end up graduating. That was kind of like, would say kind of like a linchpin of it, because it was kind of like her going through this to the school and then trying to graduate and everything. She kind of thought that was like a mission failed situation, and so you kind of get a feeling of that, like, oh, like can I really become a good auto memory doll?
Insert the audio clip of mission failed.
Exactly. And then and then I think Lucilia gives like a chance. Like there was something about them first meeting, like kind of like locking eye to eye situation that she um like wanted to help her, I guess, to some
Mm.
degree, and I guess by helping her, she helps herself because she's trying to become an auto memory doll, and then even though she graduated with high marks, she can't necessarily voices her emotions to even like the closest of her family.
What do you feel about her character progression so far as it stands in the anime? Like, do you feel like it's a good pace, or do you feel like it's too rushed?
I think it's a good pace, and I kind of like that each episode is like a different character. You know, like we're focusing on different things, and we haven't talked about the next episode. Like from one episode to each episode, I think there's like a good portion of time that kind of passes by.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think months pass by each storyline. So you're kind of getting everything from like kind of like a cliff. I wouldn't want to say like cliff notes, but like everything seems kind of like encapsulated in each episode. You know what I mean? Um, but I do enjoy like this like character progression. I want her to kind of like know and understand what these feelings are and stuff like that because to some degree I don't think age is a factor. I just think what she's gone through throughout everything in her life. Like I think I want to see this character not to get normal, but like that sounds really screwed up. But like I want to see that journey of understanding those things, and I do really enjoy like this progression.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
So at the end of the episode, she some sorry, give me a second. I gotta start breathing while I talk.
Yeah.
I think I'm probably a little shy still, but what I was trying to say, Lucilia takes Violet to kind of like the top of like this kind of bell tower situation, and then looks out, and then there's some story elements that they kind of like pepper in some of these episodes where you kind of like go back to like the major and like or some flashback where he says something that was kind of like, oh, like I want you to see this the best view of Leiden, you know what I mean? And then when she sees like the view, she was all like goes back and like thinks about like some memory, and like those were kind of like those like mystery tidbits of story that I was kind of like, okay, I want to see where this is going, you know?
I think the way that they kind of spread that out, it makes it so that while each individual episode is kind of independent of itself, you're always kind of tied back to what the original story is, which is Violet progressing throughout her career as an auto memory doll.
Right.
So I think it acts kind of like a reminder.
Yeah.
And so also I think it kind of shows why she cared for the major so much, right? Because almost every single time it flashbacks to something, it's something that he said.
Right.
And I think it's interesting that, like, if you think about it, when she first hears whatever he says, right? I don't think she truly understood what it meant.
Yeah.
But through the characters that she'll go on to meet, she'll generally progress and start to understand what it means.
Yeah. And I think I'm starting to notice kind of like the trend of like the seasons, like, yeah, of course it's kind of beaten over your head a bit, but it was like the idea that like, what is love? Baby, don't hurt. Okay, we should stop there before we get tagged. But to figure out what that emotion is, and what I've seen from this episode was kind of like a love between family members and how to address those things when it becomes like kind of strained, and you know there's some trauma behind it. And then the next episode, it was kind of like not like love in a sense that you expressed it didn't go where you wanted to go, and then what you deal with after that, you know.
So what's the summary of the second episode you ended up watching?
Well, let's wrap up the third episode. So after seeing the view from Leiden from this tower, she goes and writes a letter to Lucilia's brother.
Right.
And so that shows that Violet understands some form of like kind of like empathy, you know, in that case. And so not she, by she, I'm saying Lucilia shows this to her teacher, and then the teacher grants her like the graduation kind of like pin that like she completed her training, which also at the same time it's like kind of one letter. So I don't know how this program works, but it does give like a nice endpoint of like, okay, well, she got it. Now we're off to the next thing.
Well, I think the program mainly functions as like a way to get from like A to B, right?
It's kind of like a trade school. From what I could look at, it's kind of like a trade school.
I think part of it is also the encapsulating of emotion, because in the beginning when she starts writing,
Right.
like you see her typing really fast and all that type of stuff, and you know she can do it really well and stuff.
She's kind of like writing verbatim, like whatever you say, she's kind of like transcribe. Almost,
Exactly,
like
yeah.
a stenographer.
But it's the understanding of how to interpret what someone is saying into the words that they want these auto memory dolls to write. That is the significance of the school.
Exactly.
So, I think in her helping Lucille, right?
I think it's like Lucilia. I'm probably butchering it because I'm pretty sure I watched this about 2 or 3 days ago.
Oh, well,
so and when I finished, I immediately wrote my notes. Yeah.
Well, the significance of her writing the letter is more so the fact that she went from not really understanding what someone meant by like writing it and being very like proper and like I guess very very structured about her letters to having a sense of interpretation as to what a person was saying.
Right. Yeah. So that kind of like wraps up that story. Like, you know, she gets her kind of like certification, the pin, and like now that heartfelt kind of situation. So like at the end of the episode, I don't think it, as I recall from 3 days ago, it ends with Spencer and Lucilia going up to that same tower when they were as kids. You know what I mean? And it was a really nice ending. I really liked it. It was kind of like hopeful because it was like this. You were introduced to this guy, and like it was an alcoholic, and you were kind of like, "What an asshole!" And then you started learning the story. I'm like, "I'm an asshole," because I just kind of assume it's like, "Oh, he's just a dick that just wants to get drunk or something." And then and then it hits you over the head. It's like he has reasons why. You know, like there are sort of kind of like trigger that got him to that point of being a drunk.
I think it also adds social commentary to the world too.
Right.
Because usually when you see people who are kind of like that, you get like a negative perception of who they are. And then for some reason...
like my reaction, I was just kind of like, what the
dirty
hell?
bum. No.
And then I literally was like, oh my god, like, what is she going to go through like day to day?
Like, why are you not doing anything, right?
Yeah, to some degree. I guess it's some weird way I was just like, aren't you not going to do something about this? Even though she, you know.
I think there's a need to understand that there are certain reasons why things happen.
Yeah. And
you can't really just base, like, how somebody looks on their actions. Like, there can be reasons why they're...
Exactly. And when you learn deeply, you know, as I mentioned, like, they lost their parents, he kind of blamed himself for it. And so it got really deep, and I was just like, oh, geez. Oh, geez.
Very dark story.
Episode 4 is You Won't Be a Tool, but a Person Worthy of the Name. So this one revolves around Iris getting a contract job, and it was her first contract job while getting to do actual like auto memory doll stuff, and it happened to be in her hometown. And at the very beginning of the episode, it was like kind of a cold open from what I remember, and they were talking about she was getting excited. And then she trips and falls, but Violet is like grabbing her, like trying to like grab for her. Cuts to black. Then we see them on the train going to the her hometown. Iris's, by the way. I don't think I remember mentioning names. Got to get better at that. Iris's arm is all like cast up, you know, bandaged.
To explain first, who is Iris?
Iris is one of the auto memory doll working at the CH, kind of like. Delivery service.
So she works with her.
She works with her. She was the one that was also in the second episode complaining that she was just writing addresses and like she didn't like felt fulfilled, and you get a sense that she was very excited from the offset of getting a request from her hometown, and like she's saying all this stuff, and as an audience member, you're like, okay, cool. I'm digging this energy, this kind of like excitement, positive energy after having the episode we have previously, and we get to learn when they get to her hometown, her family greets them. Turns out their mother sent the request, and her mom, very nobly, or being nice in the idea of like to a child, or I mean not to a child, to her own kind of like children, and wants you to throw her a birthday party. But it also happens that it was like one of those Asian phenomenons where you're like of age, just like, we're gonna throw you a party, but we're really trying to get someone to court you right now.
Yeah.
So it brings up a lot of emotions about another person called Emma Snow, and then Violet, without kind of, Iris wanted him not to go. Didn't necessarily express why she didn't want him to go. But Violet kind of confirmed with the mother, and the mother was like, "Oh no, just invite them," and then she kind of like went ballistic because like everybody was at the party, and then this specific person that she expressly didn't want to be there was there, and she kind of flips out, kind of made a whole scene of her party and stuff like that, and then we got to learn kind of what I mentioned earlier, kind of like love when you express it, and then what you do after that, kind of like that aftermath situation.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because this guy, Emmon Snow, said, "Hey, I don't see you in a romantic way, but we can still be friends, right?" That type of situation. And she did the thing where she was all like, "I'm kind of done with this place. I'm gonna go out." You know what I mean? And she kind of mentions that at the end of the episode, but the whole thing kind of hinges off like, this is her decision to go into the city to get this job because she wanted a fresh start. And I kind of understand that. Rural area, not a lot of people, you know what I mean? So you could kind of empathize with that situation, and kind of scary because it's like one of the only people, I think she mentioned one of the only people that kind of got out of the town to do something out in the city, and then coming back and stuff like that. So this was a very kind of like positive episode in that sense, and we get to learn why Iris is named Iris and Violet is named Violet, and so like I said before, they're kind of peppering story elements, kind of like backstory for Violet and the Major. Turns out the Major gave Violet after seeing like kind of a violet at the base of a tree, and then Iris's name is, of course, when I think either her mom conceiving, or I don't think it was conceiving, but delivering the baby, it was kind of like the name Iris was because there was all these irises in full bloom. So I think that was that story. I'm trying to look at my notes, but yeah, that was about it. Oh yeah, and then Iris gets Violet to write apology letters to everybody in the town, and then a special letter to her parents about why she left and why she made that decision, and kind of like why, I guess, the family should respect her decision to move out from kind of like this rural area to the city. So, yeah, I dig this episode just for the fact that you're getting a much more kind of encapsulated story with Iris at the very beginning. You're just kind of like, oh, she kind of sounds like a career climber. And that was kind of like my first impressions of this character, but it was a good episode, and I like how each character art is dudded. Wasn't it? That wasn't even a word. Each character is treated with respect in a case where they do have very deep and defined backgrounds. I also watched the next episode, but we're not going to talk about that.
I mean, you can.
Well, I guess we'll tease it, but like the next episode, it's another situation about love, but in this case, it's like geopolitical love. So that's some little mystery about that one. But what do you like? What do you think about this? From my butchered explanation, what do you think of this episode?
It's good. It's not butchered. It was very good. It reminded me of what the episode was about. I found it very relatable. Going into college, I, like, as a kid, or as, like, a teen, I remember I was like, I want to be able to be independent from my parents. I need to be
Right.
separated from them. You know, there's like a very big like social narrative that once you hit college, you're kind of like your own adult, and you shouldn't be relying on your parents as much as you do. But like,
Okay, I guess kind of like more Americanized. Like when I did film stuff, like
Mhm.
film program stuff back in my internship, a lot of the students were kind of Asian, like us, i.e., like our high school district,
Mhm.
and a lot of them were like, "Oh yeah, the family wants us to be close." But what you're saying is like kind of like the relation of like kind of like the Americanized, like, "See you guys, I'm 18, I gotta make my own decisions."
Well, not in that way. More so, just like I feel slight guilt towards my parents, which I feel like Iris felt too, where it was kind of like they care about me so much. You know, they do so much for me. Why
Mhm.
should I be taking more from them when I need to be independent on my own?
Right.
And so when I went into college, of course I'm living at home and I'm still talking to them. Obviously, I love
Good
them
point.
to death.
Very
Hi
good
mom,
point.
hi
Yeah.
dad, I love you. But
Hello.
to see Iris kind of progress from like being like, oh yeah, I'm gonna move on to my like and do my own thing, and then going back home and seeing how much her parents care for her was something that kind of like struck very close home to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did find it very like interesting that she like flipped out about the guy.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, I mean, honestly though, I think everybody can kind of understand that feeling of like, let me just hide in my room for like a couple of days from this rejection, and then
Yeah. And
except
not emerge.
yeah, except she left.
Yeah, it was a very big situation that she was
Basically,
in.
yeah. But I mean, I really liked the story that she had.
Mm-hmm.
I found that one scene where she got her name very like touching, and I really liked that scene too because it's kind of like. Oh.
There's a lot of really good scenes like this season of like each er, er, each character that opens up to Violet has like this kind of like not a sad story, but kind of like a story of like what makes them them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like why does Iris feel a certain way towards Violet and stuff? Because at the beginning of the episode, Violet was kind of like, oh, why do I have to have her come around to this job? And like I can't believe this happened. It was all your fault that my arm is broken or something like that. And by the end of the episode, you're kind of like, Violet and Iris kind of seems like getting closer together,
Right.
you know, like kind of on an emotional level, like kind of like a shared understanding about Iris's situation. You know what I mean? And when the name came up, it was kind of like, oh, you also name like by your name after a flower, just like me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, I just hands. This is probably a really good episode. Not episode. Really good anime to start this first season off. You know.
That's good.
Yeah.
Did you have any opinions about the episode, like to like relate to yourself, or just like general opinions of how you felt about it, or?
I guess you know, you hit it on the nail, trying to be independent and stuff like that. You know, like while in one sense, you know, I graduated a BA, you know, had a lot of family support, but also seeing that, you know, you're very independent, seeing other people are very independent, and I also didn't want to seem like I'm just kind of like mooching off of them. So that kind of like independence, trying to like, hey, listen, I'm kind of be my own person, don't need support. But by the way, I still like my parents. I still enjoy their support and
My
everything.
parents, mom and dad.
And those things are very important to me, especially because like family is very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I like how they kind of like reconciled and like kind of had like a shared understanding of like, listen, like you may not like my decision, but this is the path that I chose for myself and I want to explore. You know what I mean? You know. So I was just kind of like, oh, I wish, you know, I'm gonna see how far this YouTube channel takes me.
I think a big thing I like really liked about the episode too is the way that they portray their parents is something I relate to in the sense that it's like
Mm-hmm.
there are some things that your parents do where when you think about it in the future, you're like, I don't know, I don't understand why they did that thing.
Yeah.
And you kind of get frustrated and you don't
Like at the moment, you're just kind of like, I can't believe they made that decision to do that. You know.
Yeah, like why would they do that? And you get angry.
I know
and
I only
stuff.
wanted a small party, but they wanted to make it big. You know, something like that. But
or,
you know,
I don't know, something related to school. But then like
yeah,
when you like watch this episode, you kind of think about it. You kind of like remember like there are certain reasons why they do that, and a big part of it is that like you're their kid, they care for you, and
suppose
what?
suppose phone អញបែបហ្នឹងគិតខ្លាំង
I think so. Do you need it? Okay,
Sure.
we're good. Yeah, sure, break.
Um,
I think what you were getting at, I don't know. Were you trying to finish your point real quick?
I think so. I don't remember what I was saying. I think like it's just important to remember that there are like certain reasons why parents choose to do things, and while we don't necessarily understand it to the fullest extent, sometimes it's
Yeah.
like a lot of the times when they do it, it's out of being caring and trying to make sure that you're okay because you're your child.
Yeah, like I think one of those things is like kind of growing up in those situations. You're kind of like, but I really want to do this beyond like, oh, you want me to become this specific set of skills. You know what I mean? But they're only saying those things because they want the best in your situation. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think yeah, you hit that on the head of I think was something that I didn't mention about this episode. It's like how much the parents really meant to Iris, and I think kind of neglected that.
Mm.
But yeah, like her family can just they show it in weird ways, but like ultimately they care for what her daughter's doing, and ultimately she may not like it, but ultimately the parents are still like they love her, they want to make sure, and like she's like the only child
Yes.
situation, so like they have the best intentions, but they're probably not kind of understanding like why she's doing certain things, like why she went to the city, even though the parents want her back into the countryside. Those kind of like mishmash expectations.
Right.
But I think that also goes into the idea of like communication. Because the only reason why there's auto memory dolls in this universe is that not a lot of people can communicate those feelings. You know what I mean? Which is kind of like a paradox because Violet is trying to understand feelings. So yeah. I guess we just kind of opened another door in this one.
A little bit.
Anything else about this episode?
I just don't really like the overall. I mean, I will admit though, like there are a couple of other episodes that I really like, but
we haven't got to there yet.
Yeah.
I do have a comment about localizing and subtitle. Well, okay, so big debate on dubbed and sub.
Better hurry, you don't got that much time left.
Real quick, because I'm watching this anime on Netflix because it's default to dubbed in English. But just so people don't complain, I also turn on the subtitles that directly translate what the Japanese voice actors are saying.
I mean, this is just an option, but like, have you thought about watching one run through in English and watching one run through in Japanese?
I haven't done so yet, but but the reason why I did that is because I watched Your Name. Our friend Calvin came by. You also remember him from our Westworld podcast. He showed us Your Name, had the English dubbed, but the Japanese translations. So you kind of got to see like how localizing is like different from Japanese to English.
Right.
You know what I mean? And there's a point in the next episode that I'm gonna get to when we get there that I was like, oh, are they just kind of like censoring this, from Japanese to English? So, without further ado, we're gonna move on to our next subject because the sands of time has just told us to change the subject. Okay. So, we're talking about My Hero Academia. Okay. I've done my homework. I thought I couldn't watch all 3 episodes because I was just doing a lot of things and there was a lot of family stuff. But I kind of got through those 3 episodes. Since the last time we were here, we only saw 1 episode, and it's Deku, finding out that he doesn't have a quirk, finding out that there's not really a chance that he can become a hero, and then literally seeing his idols, like All Might, kind of like repeat that sentiment to some degree. You know what I mean? Like, because I think All Might was at a point was like, oh shit, somebody saw me transform to this like regular form and stuff like that, and it was just kind of like, whatever, kid, just become a police officer or something like that. Become like a textbook hero, situation. And then Deku was just like, fuck. I kind of felt for that because I was just kind of like, it was like as if I like met Steven Spielberg or something, and it was just like, call it quits, kid, or something like so somebody that I look up to saying that. I guess maybe not Steven Spielberg, so but like maybe like a Bernie Burns or like someone from Rooster Teeth saying that, like I would just be crushed. I would be absolutely crushed.
Like them saying just not do it.
I was like cut the shit, kid. You know, don't quit your day job or something like that. I would be crushed if that something like that happened. So like kind of like, you know, same emotion there. Deku kind of like took that to heart. You know, he was feeling bad. The second episode is just kind of more of a continuation. So, like I said before, these two animes are completely different, kind of like pacing wise. I think My Hero Academia is kind of like your normal anime, like Dragon Ball. Like each episode is just like action, action, action. Violet is like episode here, we're going to talk about this. Episode here, we're going to talk about this. But the second episode kind of continues that. The sewer monster takes control of.
Bakugo?
Yeah, the Deku's bully, right?
Bakugo, his childhood
Okay.
friend.
Yeah, and it was like across town, and he just kicks a bottle because he's like frustrated about Deku or whatever. But by the way, this bully just has some kind of weird obsession with Deku that I noticed. It's just like, dude, it's like I had bullies when I was a kid, but like they also bullied other kids. Like what was his like his whole thing is like, oh, you quirkless perp or whatever. You know what I mean?
Well, how can I put this without spoiling anything?
It did kind of intensify after this episode because he was like he didn't want to admit that to some degree Deku also saved him, and I was just kind of like, are there not any other quirkless people in their middle or elementary school situation that like you know?
You have to remember that like the percentage of people that don't have quirks is actually very low. I think it's about 30%, which is actually relative to like the population really big. But if it's spread out, it's sparse. So the one thing you're gonna have to remember while watching this anime is that while a lot of characters are portrayed in certain ways, there are a lot of very like various assets to the person, right?
Yeah.
So one of Bakugo's main things, without really giving too much away, is that he doesn't like the feeling of feeling
is it the other kid?
helpless.
It's the blonde hair kid, right?
Sparky?
Yeah, the spiky blonde hair kid. Yeah, I wrote his name as like Katsuki. But is that
Bakugo.
Bakugo?
It's his last name's Katsuki.
Oh, okay. Sorry, they just for.
No, remember that when they do names, it's always going to be last name, first name.
Good point. Okay, remember that. All right, and I was just kind of like, okay, this kid just has it out for Deku the whole time, and throughout this kind of like whole scene that like this kind of like sewer monsters trying to take this kid over, a bunch of these superheroes trying to like save him, but like kind of like they don't have like the energy level. So this is what I like about this anime is that even though you throw a bunch of heroes on the problem, it doesn't fix the problem. You know what I mean? Like each hero has like I think that was the whole point of these quirks is that each of them has probably something individually that is probably good for some situations, but probably not great for other situations. And in this case, this probably it was a situation kind of like catered to All Might, I guess in this case. But all the heroes were like, we gotta just kind of contain this situation and make sure there's probably a different person with a better quirk that could probably deal with this. Like,
it doesn't really help either that Bakugo as a character has like a very powerful quirk.
Yeah, and the monster was trying to absorb the power from him, right? Or to like.
I think so. He has a lot of. Do you know exactly what his power is?
The Suo monster?
No, Bakugo.
It was fire.
So
from the 3 episodes that I learned from within these 3 episodes, it was like kind of like a pyromancer kind of like situation.
So the exact explanation of his power is that he sweats nitroglycerin in his body, and he can convert it into fire. And so with the amount of like sweat that he has, he can create fire from it, basically.
Okay. So now I could understand that. And so the sewer monster is just kind of like possessing his power to some degree.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And All Might gets there, catches up with the situation. He realized at the very beginning of the episode, he realizes that he doesn't have the sewer monster or whatever that liquid monster is in his possession, and he's just like, "What happened? It's that kid," you know.
Oh, to preface, I think it was Deku originally was the one that was caught by the sewer monster, right?
Exactly. So, that goes to the next thing. So as All Might gets to it, he can't transform because the previous episode it was mentioned that he can't easily transform back and forth into All Might because of his previous injury from like a different situation, and it's hard for him to transform, and he was just kind of like struggling. Like he's kind of like in the periphery. Everybody was like, "Oh, I thought All Might was around. Like, well, what happened? You know, like I thought this whole thing was like kind of like all taken care of." But it eventually does. But but All Might just kind of like felt like he couldn't do it, and so he kept on saying pathetic the whole time, and just kind of like feeling bad for himself. And then Deku arrives kind of a little bit after, and then he's just like looking at the situation, and then notices it's his bully, Katsuki, or what she said again? Bakugo, and it was like he had like a shared empathy. It was like this monster almost killed him. He's gonna kill, even though he's like kind of like a bully or whatever. He's still gonna go out of his way to try to save him. But he does it in a way where he didn't necessarily go in with a plan. He just went for it. You know what I mean? Like he didn't really like kind of think rationally. He just kind of like gone for it.
It was
and
mainly someone he saw like in need of help.
Yeah, and then he just kind of selflessly went into the fray, and then that's when All Might kind of like becomes his kind of like form, and then took care of that monster, and then made like a torrent of rain situation. And then even though Deku, of course, very justified, gets chewed out by the other superheroes, gets mad, but like the bully was like, oh, like everybody was like, oh, he saved the day or whatever, or like pity you for getting captured. Which, to be fair, yeah, I guess as an audience member, you're just kind of like, who the fuck cares? He's a bully.
I mean, the thing is though, like, you have to realize that Deku doesn't normally see like Bakugo as a bully. Like Bakugo is technically someone he admires because from his standpoint, he's someone that doesn't have anything. But
I guess I didn't really catch that. I was just kind of like this schoolyard bully. I was just kind of like, dude, this guy's kind of like a dick to Deku.
I will go ahead and say this.
Does he get better?
He gets a lot of character development by season 3.
By season 3.
Like, there's a reason why he went from being like number 5 in popularity polls to number 1.
Okay. All right. I don't know what all of that means yet. Popularity poll or whatever.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if you should mention this because I'm still watching this series.
So, okay.
Okay, go on.
What it is that when they release the manga out, I think they sometimes do popularity polls, and it's like the artist himself will do like whoever gets the highest popularity poll will be the biggest character on this character sheet, and then they have like the percentages of the people who voted for so and so and which places, like who and who. Like,
Okay.
It's a part of the publication.
That's a very new media way of looking at things.
Yeah. So.
Okay. I feel that's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
So when they take like popularity polls, they basically poll the readers to see which character has like a high percentage of people who like them.
Right.
And Bakugo in particular originally started off being kind of like lower, but as time progressed, a lot of people started liking his character and his progression, and then he's number 1 right now.
So as an audience member right now, my inclination about how Bakugo is right now, is that normal for the first season? Because I'm just kind of like, I just want to go through what Deku has to deal with. I feel like he's just kind of like a schoolyard bully.
No, yeah, it's very normal to go through that. But like, I think like the way that this anime is set up is that it fits a lot of the tropes that most shonen anime would be like in the beginning. Except that all of the characters will eventually have this very big and deep character progression. Like, you cannot take any of these characters for, like, their surface level characteristics.
Especially, like, their quirks or something.
Unless
like
you're Toru.
I don't know who that is yet. I don't know who that is yet.
Okay, there are a certain couple of characters that will get very deep, like, character development.
Right.
Bakugo is one of them.
Right.
I think there are a couple of characters that will be there too. But you kind of have to just remember, like, there are certain reasons why a character acts a certain way.
Right.
But don't see them just because of how they act, like, now.
Okay. So I gotta be patient with Bakugo.
Yes. Because,
okay, for now.
like, originally, I was kind of in the same boat when I first started watching. I was like, oh, man, this guy's kind of like a fucking prick.
Yeah.
And then, by the end of season 3, I was kind of like, oh, man, I feel really bad. Like, it's... Yeah, without saying too much about it, you just, like, I felt so bad for him, and it's, like, his character development, like, part of what he says in the future hurts.
Okay, I really wish we had an audience, because there's probably, like, if this becomes a whole thing, like, there's gonna be a lot of people that's gonna, like, write in the comments, like,
Where's
oh,
Phil?
oh, he's gonna know what's gonna happen here, oh.
Bring Phil here. Has he watched Boku no Hero?
No, from the last I checked, he watched Food Wars and Gate.
Damn
That's
it.
about it.
I've not watched Boku no Hero.
But Phil's friends has watched Boku no Hero.
Darn.
Yeah.
But
But,
yeah.
you know, I haven't
If you
really...
want to, Calvin just started Boku no Hero too.
Did he really?
I'm pretty sure he finished it by now, but when we went to,
Did y'all go to the movie?
I went to the movie.
Oh, you went to the movie? Oh, okay.
But when we went to, here, let me put it this way. If you want to watch the movie, all you need to watch up to is season 2.
Watch up to season 2.
And then everything in the movie will still make sense.
Okay, watch up to season 2. Okay, I might do a special episode then. Because
you can do 1, 2, movie, 3.
Okay, and also one thing, this is like my workout anime, so I'm on the treadmill watching this anime, and this will go to the next episode, because, like, literally the next episode is like a training montage, and I was just like, yeah, I'm down for this to be like my workout anime.
Let's move to the next one.
So at the end of this, before we do that, as we go into the next episode, the preview, and this is a lot of stuff that kind of jam in the preview. So at the end of the episode, Deku kind of like feels a little bit demoralized after being chastised and all that stuff from that whole incident. Walks down, goes towards home, but All Might kind of like jumps out of nowhere, it's just like hello, and then kind of pukes out blood. Every time that All Might changes from like a muscle god
There's
to like
blood.
It's always blood.
Yeah.
Anyways, which also makes me scared about his character, because like to some degree it's like there's only so much blood in a human body.
Exaggerated.
Okay, fair play. And then we see All Might kind of start to explain about what his power and like the whole idea of like Deku can inherit this power. Cut to episode 3, called Roaring Muscles. They resumed the kind of conversation about how All Might is talking about how he can inherit his powers. And so we get into the whole thing. When you were trying to sell me this, sell me the series, other than how like the quirks have their limits, you're also telling me like the his kind of like All Might's power is called All for One.
Yeah.
And like the whole point is that throughout generations, like this power goes from host to host.
Actually,
is it?
It might be one for all.
Is it one for all?
I think it is one for all.
I could be wrong, because I'm also using these notes like as I'm watching or like at the end.
It's one or the other. It's either
it's one
all
or
for
the
one
other.
and one for all.
One or the other. Okay.
I believe.
We're gonna get chewed out in the comments for this.
I believe it's one for all. No, you can fact check me on that.
Okay, but as I explained this while I fact checked it, so All Might is talking about how his power kind of transfers from person to person, and it gets exponentially powerful, or like, I think that's how he explained it. Like each time it gets passed on, like there's some remnants of like the previous power.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, the reason why he's kind of like the number one kind of hero is basically that was. It also says one for all. It automatically. It says all for one and one for all.
There's an importance for this. Just remember, it's one for all. It's one person for everybody.
Okay. Well, all right. We'll see, because literally it's confusing. So, see this? It just says like Boku no Hero Academia wiki, right? Wiki. All for one for all.
Okay. Yes. It'll be very important.
Okay.
Just remember, it's one for everybody.
Okay. All right. It sounds like I need to dive in deeper later. Like,
Just think about it this way. The way
Okay,
that the
go on.
quirk works, right, is
Alright.
that it started off with one person.
Right.
So that's the one, right?
Right.
And so as time has progressed, the quirk has gotten stronger by the people it's passed down to.
Right.
So then it's one for everybody, each person that it's passed down to. If that makes any sense.
A little bit. It's getting there. It's getting there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's as far as I know about the power. And Deku's just kind of like, there's such thing as people inheriting power and stuff like that. And it was just kind of like, okay, all right. And cut to, he's having a training montage for 10 months trying to clean up a beach. And I thought that was the funniest thing ever because it kind of reminded me like Karate Kid or Rocky, where it's like literally kind of like this. I'm kind of happy that I'm running on a treadmill while doing this because it's a really funny set of scenes, and it was kind of played. You know, if you watch any athletic movie, there's always gonna be, or like a sports movie, there's always gonna be a montage of like training and stuff like that. It's been played out. But like the way to do this is it's very fun and it's very funny and you know very anime in that sort of regard. And at the end of the episode, he finishes the task about cleaning like the beach and everything, and then All Might gives him a piece of hair, which at the end towards the end of the episode, I literally almost tripped off the treadmill laughing because I was like, he's done all this and he's gonna get like a little piece of hair. And he has to ingest this piece of hair.
Yep.
And I was just like, well, what does this mean? Is this how he gets the power? You know, it's like, I'm just kind of confused as an audience member because, you know, on top of like the art style not necessarily conveying the same emotions that like the scene, like how I as the audience member should be feeling, like, I'm just kind of like, okay, this show is legitimately throwing me for a loop at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's as far as this one goes. And then you see them going into the entrance exam. You see a little bit of that going to the UA kind of transition between elementary school. I don't know if there's middle schools in Japan, or at least in this situation.
I'm not sure.
I'm just saying elementary school because they're kind of like kids. So they're going through the entrance exam, and the entrance exam is not your normal entrance exam. It's not an SAT or GMAT. It's literally a physical entrance exam with a bunch of robots because of course because they're superheroes. So the next episode is basically them dealing with that.
You gotta meet Ochako.
Is that her name?
Uraraka?
Yeah, the one that kind of had like telekinesis powers, right?
She has the ability to touch something and make it float.
Okay, so is that what that was? I was just kind of like, as far as I know, before you told me, she was like the nice girl.
Yes.
Yeah. So, cut to next episode, 4th episode. We start at the very beginning of this kind of like exam. Everybody's trying to rush in. There's also some established characters that's kind of annoyed of Deku. There was like the guy with the blue tracksuit that also his quirk is like kind of like Ito, right? Like his thing was like he has kind of like thrusters on his like calf muscles, so like he can kick or run fast, and like that's kind of like his whole thing is like speed is kind of his quirk. You know what I mean? I got to see more of Bakugo's or quirk where it's like he's kind of like he's basically a fire starter or whatever, and we kind of figure out what the whole eating the piece of hair, because literally Deku gets super jump and a super punch. we finally get to see Deku with some powers, but the problem is because as we mentioned before, the power is also like can be debilitating too. Like it I don't know if it hurts All Might, but there was like an idea that in my mind I was like it kind of takes away from him.
So
because he gets hurt, right? Like All Might gets hurt and like he's dealing with an injury. When Deku activates his powers, his legs are gone, turns to jelly, right? Deku.
It's more so the power is so strong that Deku's physical body cannot handle it from not having a quirk.
Okay, so him not having a quirk kind of plays into that.
Well, I think so. I think the main thing is just that his body cannot physically handle that quirk. So whenever he tries to expend any amount of energy using it,
Right.
he'll break whatever it is.
You saying that kind of reminds me of that whole conversation, like where All Might was talking about how his body could probably not handle having All Might's power, and like you literally see him like decapitated limbs and everything. So I kind of see what you're saying. Yeah, I do see what you're saying. That his body can work with properly with given the power that All Might to some degree bestowed on him.
So this is what I meant by when we were originally talking about this anime in a cafe.
Yeah.
So this anime specifically focuses on Deku getting the power. So that power's ability is to the level of All Might, but he's down here and that's up here. And the whole purpose of the anime is him trying to get to the point of being there, or at least like
level.
being able to handle that power because he can't right now.
Yeah.
So it's understanding and learning how to use it. So there's a big issue in anime when it comes to power creep, because when you're watching various types of animes, like you mentioned Dragon Ball Z last week, it basically doesn't ever end. They become gods essentially, and the power never ends.
Yeah.
They keep getting more powerful.
Yeah,
But-
like the most recent Dragon Ball series was like Battle of the Gods, and I was just kind of like, well, that's like really hitting it on the nail, guys, you know.
Yeah. So, like, power creep is a very big issue in anime, but this anime basically makes it so this is the level, but you're here. How are you going to get here?
Essentially, yeah. Okay, I agree.
Like, they set the max already.
Yeah, I think that was the whole point of that first episode, because like him establishing that he doesn't have a quirk, and then also showing like the big good in this situation, in this world. And yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying this right now, because it is what you said before. It's like it's a shattering of those expectations of like what it is, like the whole power creep thing, what it is to be a superhero. There was a lot this whole thing about like, can superheroes bleed or show weakness in that sort of regard. So I'm kind of like ready to kind of like dive deeper season 2 and onward to figure this out. Yeah.
How'd you like that last episode with the fighting and stuff like that? Because that's the first very like physical fight you get aside from like the scene with Bakugo, but it's not really fighting intense. Like,
yeah, it was just kind of more like intense scene or situation.
It's high emotion. Like the one thing that happens specifically is that All Might comes in, he Texas smashes the thing. I think that's what he used. But with this episode, or the most recent episode that you've seen, it focuses specifically on the students trying to get through their exams, and that one's a lot more combat heavy.
Yeah.
Did you like the animations? Or?
I do like the animation, and there's a lot of great care that goes into this anime. It's like, especially the first episode, like even if there's not a lot of action going on, there's a lot of stuff happening in the background. Everything is all kind of fluid in the sense that you understand that this world has so many superheroes and different type of things, and I just love the creativity behind those like characters and stuff like that.
Do you have a favorite quirk so far?
I like the whole Ant-Man character because she loves puns, and I love puns.
The Ant-Man character?
Yeah, the one that she grows up like for 10 times her size. Mount Lady. I only like her because I feel like she's very funny.
Oh.
And she's awesome. And punny at the same time.
You'll like Miss Joke.
Miss Joke. Oh my god, there's a character named Miss Joke?
Yeah.
Oh my god. What is this going to be this first season?
It's not for a while.
Okay, good point. I'm gonna wait in bated breath for
you
that.
can look up the character design.
I feel like it could be a potential spoiler. Oh, by the way, with all this stuff, if this becomes very big and like a lot of people are commenting, it will probably get to a point where it's like, should I or should I not look at the comments just in case of spoilers? I don't want a human dog combination spoiler before I get to see that in real life.
Don't say that. That's bad.
That's a scar. That's an anime scar. So I do tend to laugh whenever a meme comes up of that one. I'm just like, ah. I go ah, and then I was like, that's kind of clever.
I think recently I was at a convention and they had this dance group do a brotherhood. Oh no, actually just a Full Metal Alchemist like skit, like just all encompassing,
Okay.
like both animes and stuff.
Mhm.
And that scene came up, and at the time, I literally had not heard about Brotherhood, or I hadn't started Brotherhood yet. So
Okay.
everything happened, and I thought the thing was real, like all of the parts they did were really good, but I didn't understand it. And then I watched Brotherhood, and at the time when I started watching,
Did you watch the first run of the anime? Because it was in the first run of the anime also.
No, I did not.
Oh God! So you went into Brotherhood, and like that's literally the first like 10 episodes.
Yeah,
God.
but like I watched it and I understood, and I was like, oh. And the thing is, when I watched it with my friend,
Yeah.
he was like, or we were watching it together, and he was like, oh God. And then I was like, what? And he's like, oh, it's nothing. Don't worry about it. I'm like, what do you mean don't worry about it? You can't say that and tell me not to worry about it. And then he was like, you'll see. And then it happened, and I was like,
You were like, I wish you would have told me.
yes. Because the thing is, after he said that, I was like, something's going to happen.
Were you kind of bracing yourself?
Yes, and then the thing is, like, they started mentioning, like, the chimeras, and then they started, like, showing the girl and the dog, and I was like, this is...
What you probably think is like, everything is way too chipper.
No, I was just like, okay, the one lesson that I picked up from watching Brotherhood is if there's a child in there, there's something wrong with the child. Like 100%, there will always be something wrong. The
Oh my God! I dropped my headphone.
The only exception to this is what's his name?
Hughes' daughter, right?
Yes.
Hughes' daughter. That like
she kind of gets messed up slightly because of what happens, but like, Phil,
Well-
have you ever watched Brotherhood?
Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
At least the first 2 episodes.
Dang it!
Okay, you gotta
know
finish
what?
it.
No, we can't say it anymore.
Yeah.
Never mind. Go back. Anyway.
Well, he did watch the first one though.
But the dog.
No, it wasn't there, isn't it? To my recollection, it was in both anime series.
Don't talk to me. I've only seen Brotherhood.
I don't know why we got onto this Brotherhood kick.
You mentioned the thing.
Oh yeah, it was spoilers for like in the comments, like if this becomes bigger, it's like like everybody's gonna be like, oh, I can't wait. It's like the Red Wedding. It's like Game of Thrones level, or like what's a good movie that has like a big twist that I haven't seen yet? Like I guess Infinity War. You know what I mean? Like that big spoiler or something like oh my God, you're gonna see that scene. It's gonna be crazy.
Honestly, me watching that skit was like that one meme that went around during Infinity Wars, or actually it's still going around now, where it's like,
Oh, the I don't feel good.
no, the episode out of context, like spoilers with no context.
Oh yeah. The it's like the meme phenomenon, not the.
No. That specific meme where it's like, you're talking about this one show, and these are all of the things that happen, but you don't know why they happen.
That's a very good.
Have
point.
you seen that?
No, I only seen the like kind of like the whole out of context spoiler where it's just like
Yeah,
I
the
don't
out
feel-
of context spoilers.
No, but it was like more in kin of like from how I understood it was the whole like I don't feel good memes,
Yeah.
and I had no idea. I was just like, it's kind of funny. It was actually really funny without even the context. Actually, it was
Oh.
just like, oh, they're just disappearing off to the ether.
Yeah,
And I
no,
was just
there's like these posts, and the time's ended, but like disregarding that because we're not even talking about it right now.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's like the meme where it's like there are like a whole bunch of photos.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're talking about Infinity War, right? It's like let's say there's a picture of Dust.
Yeah.
There's a picture of Squidward. There's a picture of.
There was another picture that made me laugh. It was like, oh wow, the new lineup of Infinity War toys this December is going to be really weird.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, and it was just basically toy boxes like filled with dust.
Well, anyways, that's our Boku no Hero.
Yeah.
talk.
So going back. So I think this episode, wrapping everything up, we learned that Deku didn't get any points. He got a 0, but his kind of act saving the girl, which you named what again?
Ochako.
Otako.
Ochako.
Otako. I almost said otaku.
Just think O and then like chocolate. Ochako.
Ochako. And we learned that she was trying to like, hey, listen, like he saved me, so can you give him some points or something like that? And we also learned that freaking All Might is apparently the headmaster of this school.
He's the headmaster.
Oh, is he? Like he was in the.
He's a teacher.
Oh, he's a teacher. Oh, I thought he was like a headmaster situation because I was just like he's sitting in that big chair going like, yes.
Wait, did they reveal the headmaster yet?
No, I don't think so. I assumed it was All Might because he's like the top dog superhero.
You're gonna like the headmaster.
Oh, and MVP character of them all, the nurse, the school nurse. She's awesome. I wish I could see like cosplay of her. I'm pretty sure there is cosplay of her.
I will show you. There's actually a couple that did her and another character that you haven't met yet.
Okay, I want to see that later. But she's 100% MVP of this episode.
Saving everybody.
Yeah.
And their fucking injured asses all the time.
Honestly, maybe we should definitely do this for a season finale of this one. Like maybe it's like what quirk you want. I'll definitely be a support class.
Just kissing people left and right.
So I'll be like shit. What's that character in Overwatch that's everybody's so like I need help.
Oh, I need healing. Mercy.
Mercy. I'll be everybody's Mercy.
No, Mercy.
I'll be a bad job.
No,
but I'll
Mercy's
be
not
everybody's
even
Mercy.
like Mercy anymore. She got nerfed to oblivion.
Oh well, you know.
Healing.
I'll still be support class. Anyway, so that wraps up our second episode. If you have any
Yay.
questions, please make sure you put them in the comments. We'll definitely look at them. Please, no spoilers. If you do a spoiler, please put it on tag to respect others. And,
or do it out of context.
and do it out of context so I won't never understand. Or
I mean, I'll understand it, but
do like season 3 spoilers where I'm just like, I don't know what's going on. What happened to this character? I don't even know who this is.
See, I like spoilers sometimes because even if I hear about them, I won't know what it means until I watch it.
Does it like rip the band-aid for you, or is it just kind of like it's
No,
like an out
like-
of context situation?
A good example is like I recently watched a show
Right.
and like I knew everything that happened, but then like I didn't know it in context, so I just knew those things happened and it intrigued me. So it pushed me to want to finish watching it to understand it, and so I watched it, and then when I was in the middle of seeing it, I was like, oh, that's how it happened. Okay.
It's like, yeah, I could say it's not a 100% comparison, but like the whole Infinity War, like I don't feel good memes, where I was just like, oh, that's an Infinity War thing. I was like, what are you talking about? It's like, oh, don't worry, just watch the movie.
Yeah.
It was like one of those situations.
Oh, by the way, speaking of which, this is really off topic. Did you hear about the new title?
Oh my god, did they
It's supposed to be Avengers Annihilation.
Annihilation? Okay.
Oh wait, yeah. Annihilation.
Oh, is it a rumor or is it like expressly like
Well,
announced?
It's technically a rumor, but it's basically confirmed as being called an Avengers Annihilation. It might be
I'm
wrong.
gonna wait because Annihilation sounds like an awesome title.
I mean, people have also said Avengers Assemble, but that's like the original title. From
Yeah, wasn't that the first one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But then again, everybody. Well, this is now turned into a movie podcast. But
Really short movie podcast.
yeah,
There we
movie
go.
podcast. But
I'm
I'm not gonna take it to heart until Disney announces it.
But did you hear? Chris Evans recently tweeted.
I have some beef about that
Why?
because I think him announcing it can be potentially a spoiler.
Oh yeah.
Because I was just kind of like, I was okay. So I wanted to invite these parent cosplay people, and they're a diehard Disney fan.
Insert their link right here.
I don't think I have permission to do that. Okay.
Picture. Just put a picture.
But just put a picture. Okay, but they're diehard I almost said DC Disney fans, and they're kind of like what I want from a partner in my golden years as we age to oblivion.
Don't say it like that. That's so messed up.
Hey, from all the movies I watch.
Don't say it like that as well.
But that was kind of like relationship goals, which,
Yes.
like a situation where like,
Cosplay relationship.
yeah, and they're diehard Disney fans, and I had this whole conversation like by him announcing that, isn't that more or less a spoiler for the next Avengers movie? And I was just kind of like thinking, like they were saying like, oh, but maybe he could come back. I was like, yeah, he could. They say he could come back, but it could be like a workout video for
Or like a
Peter
cameo.
or a cameo or like a cameo in a sense that if his character does kick the bucket, it's like a video or like a touching kind of like, oh, remember what the Avengers stood for or something like that.
I remember I saw the tweet and I was like, did he just tell us that he's going to die?
I do honestly, I feel like that might happen. It more or less confirmed it for me. I was just like, Chris Evans or like Marvel, like you chewed out God, I forgot his name, but the guy who plays the Hulk, like for saying a spoiler, and like you get on Tom Holland for spoiling movies. I'm like, Chris Evans just possibly did that. So.
I mean, I think the thing about it is, like, Chris Evans has said in previous interviews that he does not want to renew his
It
contract.
was kind of like the writing was on the wall, and I guess he just wanted to confirm that, right?
Yeah.
I think that was just kind of the thing.
I mean, if in any case, I'm pretty sure he could still come back for like cameos. Like for example, with the wait, this might be a spoiler. Spoiler alert! Insert the spoiler alert here.
Spoiler
It's
time.
like in Pirates of the Caribbean where Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom make cameos.
Oh, but that movie came out like 2 years ago, though.
Did it come out 2 years ago? I felt like it was
Was
a
it 2
year
years?
ago. You know what? I don't know. Anyway,
It's still a year ago. I'm pretty sure if you care about Pirates of the Caribbean, you probably already watched it.
well, not many people think like the newer movies. Anyway, besides the point, it's like you know how they're technically not on with the movies anymore and haven't been signed with the movies for a really long time, but they still made like a huge cameo in the movie,
Especially in the beginning and the end.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I feel like if anything, like the captain's likelihood of living is still up in the air. He might still be alive. Like,
Yeah, before this becomes like to a whole conversation about movies and not anime, I would like to
Whoops.
conclude this anime podcast by saying thank you for watching. Hope you subscribe.
if you
Press
have any comments about Infinity, no, I'm just kidding.
if you have any comments about that style of stuff, wait until our movie podcast. Maybe one day. We don't know. We're trying to figure stuff out. Well then, we'll see you next time. Please subscribe and press the notification button. And this is Kalani. You shall follow her. I don't think I ever mentioned that.
I don't.
Do you do Twitch?
I stream a little bit.
Oh, okay.
You can.
You can follow her on this channel.
Chinem. That's me.
There you go. Enjoy that while it's here. Okay, alright. Well, bye.
Bye.
See ya.